I would go so far as to say that this is like top 5 digital cameras that I've ever used for me personally. Hello and welcome to Manchester Airport. Following what I'm sure will be a swift yet intimate cavity search from security, I will be flying out to Orlando. The plan is to shoot an extreme amount of film photography, and you might be wondering, what does any of this have to do with the Fujifilm x100s and whether you should buy one in 2025 or not? Let me show you why this is very, very relevant. I am out of film. I'm going to commit an absolute crime and I'm going to swap to digital. It's not all bad news because it is digital, but it's 5 years digital.
Okay, fair.
Fuji x100s, baby. You gave me a choice between watching this movie or the plane going down. My answer would be, can I at least put my swimming shorts on before we hit the water? So I was in America for a couple of weeks shooting a bunch of different film photography things. Those videos are coming next. And my number one rule when it comes to traveling with film cameras is to always have a digital camera backup that I use alongside my film cameras as essentially a safety net. Reason for this is fairly obvious. I am but a man and man can make mistake. Don't know why I said that like the caveman from Ice Age, but alas, the thing with shooting film is that because you can't see the photo immediately after you take it, it's very easy to not realise that you've f***ed up until you develop your film, and at that point, it is too late. Which is something that I did do on one occasion on this trip, and you'll be glad to hear that that will be getting its own video. So we can all look forward to that one. And so my digital safety net for this trip was the Fuji x100s. I've owned this camera for years, but using it pretty much every day on this trip has reminded me why I love it so much. You're such a good camera. Now I know this is YouTube and I'm supposed to do the whole wanky, suspenseful, oh, do I like it, don't I like it thing. And I do that Kevin McAllister about to commit GBH in Home Alone face, you know, and he's like, and make it the thumbnail, and we all look at it and think, what a idiot. But I am an adult, so I'm not gonna do that. And instead, I'm just gonna basically tell you straight up that I love this camera. I would go so far as to say that this is like top 5 digital cameras that I've ever used for me personally. It's an awesome travel camera. The raw files are so easy to work with, like just as easy to use as my big boy Sony files that I use all the time for work. And if you can find one of these cameras for less than the price of one of your kidneys, then it might be worth picking it up. So if that ticks all the boxes you needed ticking from this video, feel free to leave now. But Zilla will be very, very upset if you do. Look at that cute little face. Are you really gonna close this video right now? Are you really gonna do that to her? And I am going to save a little tippy tip for a little bit later on in the video where I'm going to explain how you can make the Fuji x100s look more like film straight in camera. And I'm going to talk about some alternative options of other cameras that you might want to look at if you don't want to spend the money on an x100s. Because, oh boy, has the price skyrocketed on these things in the last few years, so it might be worth sticking around. Now I'm going to just assume that you know all the specs relating to this camera if you're researching it and thinking of buying one, but I will throw them up on screen somewhere, or some of them, or whatever. I don't really get bogged down in specs on this channel because quite simply I don't care that much, because I think the user experience is way more important. Like how it feels to actually use is going to make a much bigger impact on whether you actually pick this camera up and physically use it regularly. So let's talk about that user experience. So one of the things I've said many times about the Fuji x100s is how much I love using it because it feels so similar to using a film camera. In terms of the controls and the handling of the camera, you have the aperture ring on the lens like a lot of film cameras have. You also have the shutter speed dial like a lot of film cameras have. And these are physical things that you have to move. It's not on a touch screen or anything like that. These are dials and knobs that you twist and turn. And look at me grin, I'm so immature, so immature. I also have this function button set for the ISO so that I can kind of just set it and forget about it, kind of like you would when you load a certain speed of film, and then I'll adjust exposure using the shutter speed and the aperture. And like I say, this makes it just feel a little bit closer to that film experience for me, which I really enjoy. The built-in flash is excellent on this camera, and let's be real, aesthetically, it looks cool as shit, doesn't it? I want to know in the comments, be honest, how many of you are here because the camera looks sick? Because I was. The first time I looked at this camera and was like, well, I think I'm gonna buy one, was just because it looked so cool. So let me know in the comments. I'm gonna pin a comment and be like, this is the comment. Just like it. You don't have to like out yourself in a comment, but I will respect you if you do. You can just press the like button and we'll just see if that number goes up. How many of you here are thinking of buying this camera just because it looks cool? Because I did. Now, what a lot of people don't realize about the Fuji x100s is that this camera has really nice grain. Oh, I said the G word. Not like a setting, not like on like a Fuji x100 5 or 6 or whatever, where you dial in a, you know, simulated setting for grain. No, I mean the grain when you push the sensor too far. And that, my friends, is the trick to making your photos look more like film with this camera. Do not be scared of the higher ISOs. Throw that thing right up there and let the sensor totally degrade. This gives like big pushed film energy. This reminds me of like Delta 3200 when you stretched it a bit too far, which I do all the time. But yeah, if you have one of these cameras, give that a go. You are welcome. Now, it's obviously not a perfect camera. Those obviously do not exist. The autofocus is slow, but it has created some happy accidents. And if you're thinking of picking this camera up and shooting it the same way you would like a Canon R5 or a Sony a7 IV, just spraying and praying, you're likely not going to get along with the camera at all. I believe it's important to learn the limitations of your gear and then play in that sandbox. A mentality of, okay, the autofocus is slow, so as the operator of the camera, how do I adapt to that and still create? That mentality, I think, is what helps us become better photographers. Now, the major thing I don't like about the Fuji x100s is that I am, at heart, I'm a viewfinder girly. Call me old school, but I like to use the viewfinder on a camera. Now, sadly, when you use the viewfinder on the x100s, you'll take a photo and you'll notice on the screen that it's not lined up the exact same way it was in the viewfinder, and it just means you might have to crop in post or whatever. But I find it a little irritating when you spend all this time finding a nice composition, take a photo and you're like, oh, it's the wrong place again, whatever. So I tend to just use the screen when I'm composing photos. Now let's get to the big question. Should you buy one of these cameras in 2025? It's such a difficult question to answer because when I picked this camera up, I bought it a couple of years ago. I paid about £200 for it. And I am so confident that the Fuji x100s is way more than £200 worth of camera. And if that was still the case, I would 100% recommend this camera to basically everyone. But with the way the prices have skyrocketed, I've seen roughly these are going somewhere between like £500 and £700. I think the Fuji x100s is definitely still £500 worth of camera, no question at all. But the issue I have is that it's so old. It's like 10 years old. Parts degrade, cameras break down, and you best believe that these cameras are out of warranty now. So your £500 investment is always going to be a risk because that £500 camera might only last you a week before the shutter fails or something like that. Just general wear and tear plagues the camera. I guess with that being said, if you buy from a camera shop here in the UK, for example, they'll often give you like a 6-month warranty with used camera gear, which is really good. So at least that's an option if you are going to go down the route of buying one of these cameras. Definitely encourage you to buy from a shop rather than a person for that reason. But ultimately, it's only a decision that you can make, really. Like, I've had mine for years now. It's been absolutely battered and it's still going strong, but I know that that definitely isn't the case for all of these cameras. If you can go to a camera shop, you can try it out, then you're limiting the potential issues of that camera failing, I guess. But even then, sometimes they just break, don't they? So it's a hard one. It's a hard one. I guess I would say I'd end this section of the video just by saying, if you are going to buy one of these secondhand, then just emotionally prepare yourself for it might break. It could break. Now, I mentioned earlier on in the video about some alternatives that I was going to suggest for this camera. These are options that you could look at that might tick some of the boxes that I'm assuming this camera was going to tick for you. I haven't used all of these cameras myself, so can't fully like recommend them, but I just want to give you some options of avenues that you can explore if you're researching, you know, a camera to buy in the spirit of the X100s. So first up, we have the Fuji X-T30 Mark III. This has literally just been announced, and I know it's more expensive, but hear me out. Yes, you're going to pay more money for it, but I think this is the best alternative that can capture the spirit of an X100s without paying over the odds for an X100s on the used market. You get all the character of Fujifilm in a really small camera body, slap a pancake lens on the front, and you've essentially got the same setup as an X100. Yes, it is more expensive than picking up a used Fuji X100s, but you'll get a warranty, and these are going to be way easier to repair should something go wrong. I also, on a side note, love the sound of the film simulation dial that they put on top of this camera. That looks sick. You'll get all the film simulations, like the latest stuff by the sound of it, which is really cool. And you can grow as a photographer, swap the lenses out, all that sort of stuff. I just feel like this is a better investment if you're going to spend money on a camera that can be like a daily carry or whatever. Now, another option that I've used personally would be a used Ricoh GR3X. Since the GR4 came out, these are sort of coming down in price now, so you might be able to get a good deal on one of these second-hand. Obviously, the same risks buying second-hand as anything else, but these are a great small camera, fixed prime lens option, way smaller than the X100s, and you can just throw it in your pocket. And you've got some nice control for recipes on there as well, like setting up how you want it to look. Nice grain option too. I really like the GR3X in particular. And my final option as an alternative to the X100s is to go on eBay and look for a cheap digital point and shoot. Just see what you can find that isn't much money. It's an approach I like to adopt when I'm looking for a new film point and shoot. If you go looking for stuff that's popular and trendy, you're gonna pay over the odds for it because resellers have realized they're worth money, whereas sometimes you can find a real awesome camera dirt cheap because people are just getting rid of it and it's not trendy, so it's not worth loads of money, but it can be a super good camera, and I've stumbled on some awesome cameras this way, so might be worth giving that a go. Alright, so that is me. Thank you for checking out the video. I appreciate you being here. So I wanted to get these last two videos out before I started like this little series I'm going to be doing about the film photography trip out to America. It's like 10 hours of video footage. That's 10 hours of like usable video footage. Like I've been going through it, getting rid of anything that isn't usable, and we're left with like 10 hours of footage, like 20 rolls of film, all the BTS. So like every frame of film that I shot, I shot BTS of. So I have video of everything, and I'm so stoked to get stuck in with those videos. Loads of different cameras, loads of different film stocks, so much to talk about. Things that went well, things that went horribly wrong, all these different places. I'm so excited to share all of that in these YouTube videos. So if there's any photos in this video that you've seen that you thought were kind of interesting, then stick around for the film versions basically, because everything that you've seen in this video will have been shot on film and possibly with a better composition or whatever, and I have BTS of them being shot. So anything that kind of like stood out to you in this video, there's much more to it in the upcoming videos, if you understand what I mean. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video if you enjoyed it. Come and say hello in the comments. But thank you for being here. I hope you're good. I hope your family's good. I hope your dog is well. As always, a little scratch behind the ears from me. And hopefully I will catch you in the next one. Peace.